Okay, Darci's Corner, maybe. It's February 8th, 2021. We're still going through a pandemic. I'm still working two jobs, delivering papers and working at the store, and getting ready to set up for my bee farm again this year. We'll see how that goes. Anyway, I may or may not share this one online. Uh, I get these thought inspirations, and I really should write them down, but for me, I don't know why, other than I'm dyslexic and ADHD, but when I sit down and try to write these things out or type them out on a word processor, I find that I get brain fog really easy, and it's difficult to maintain the train of thought. But I'm pretty sure I should write a book into a program and develop something based on my life story. Not because I'm overly special. I mean, I am unique because I'm trans and all, but there's tons of trans people out there. Uh, but there's something in there that needs to be expressed, needs to be shared, and I think it helped people a lot. I've taken the Marissa Peer RTT course, but I haven't, partially because of the pandemic and I haven't had people to work with, but also because I had difficulty focusing on anything for any length of time. So I haven't really applied so much of that to my life as I would like to. But the thoughts from it have been percolating in my head for over a year now. And one of the things Marissa teaches you is that whatever is in your future, the thing that you're meant to do, it's in your past. So when you were a kid, the thing that you like to do, or one of the things you like to do, is connected to that, right? And when I was a child, when I was 7 or 8 or whatever, I worked with my grandfather to help build a shed in the backyard of his house. And there's a whole story leading up to that, but the important thing is that I really liked doing that. And the other thing I really liked doing as a kid was playing with bugs and snails and snakes and whatever, fish and stuff. I love doing that stuff too. And I really enjoyed those things. Well, that explains a lot about why I like the beekeeping. Because if you're an amateur beekeeper, that pretty much forces you to become a carpenter. You don't have to become a carpenter, but to buy all that equipment and things that you're going to need to maintain your bees the way you want, that can get quite expensive. And it's much easier just to go build that stuff yourself. I would say most amateur beekeepers are also amateur carpenters because they just, out of necessity, you can spend $200 on a little box with 10 frames in it and a lid and a bottom or whatever, and that's a ridiculous amount of money. You can build that same box for like $50 if you know how to build a box. It's not a skill that's not, like, you can learn it pretty easy. You still have to get equipment and stuff to do that, I suppose, but still, once you have that equipment, now you have it, and then you can just build as many boxes as you want for, $50 or $30 instead of like 200, and get the same results. So anyway, the important part of that ramble is that what you're doing is connected to your past, right? And that's connected to my past because I have really good memories of building things with my grandfather, building sheds and other types of stuff. Mostly it was the shed that I built, but still, we tried building all sorts of things, go-karts and stuff. None of that stuff ever really worked. But I had fun building it, and I had fun playing with the bugs and the different critters that were around. And bees are bugs and critters, and carpentry is what I enjoy. And the last couple of years, I've been either building sheds or improving sheds that I've built. That's all goes back to when I was a child. Now, I haven't made any money at it, but I did have a job 2-3 years ago, maybe longer than that, where I was working for a company that I had to go out of town like an hour and a half, where we get to in 45 minutes. And I was building sheds, not sheds. I was building um, work sites, like work camps for oil fields and stuff. So we were in a warehouse, and they would, we had the materials there, and we'd set up the 2x4s and put on the siding and the roofs and all that other stuff, and that was kind of what I did for a year. But like all jobs in the trades, it's all based on the economy at the time. So like you have a steady job for 6 months, maybe a year or two if you're lucky, depending on what's going on. That one I think lasted me 8 months or something like that. And they were like, "Oh, we got 5 years of work." No, they didn't have 5 years of work. They had 8 months of work, and then life changed. And some of them guys probably had 5 years of work, but I certainly didn't. But that's fine. The important part of this, again, ramble, is that I enjoyed that type of work, but I didn't enjoy it. I was scared to go into that type of work when I was a teenager, because I was not popular in high school. They liked to torment me quite a bit, and it wasn't because I was trans. They didn't know about that, and I wasn't gay or effeminate either in high school, because that was the '90s, and at least where I was, you couldn't express that as a teenager and have your life be worth living. Like, it would have really sucked for me if people would have known that. So, I never told anybody. Um, but anyway, but no, they hated me enough as it was, and I kind of determined early on that the kids that were going to harass me the most, the place where I would feel the least safe, socially speaking, was like shop class, any one of them. And because I was ADHD and dyslexic, which are not bad traits, by the way, once you learn how to manage them. But I didn't know how to manage them, and so I couldn't get my projects done on time. Plus, people would damage them or hide them or whatever. They'd make my life hard, and it was already hard because I already had that challenge of, I can't do this as fast as that kid can do it. Like, what I should have, if I were to make a modified program of that for someone like me, I would have given me half the projects and said, okay, they're going to do 6 things, birdhouses and whatever it is. You're going to do 3. But the 3 you do are going to be like perfect by the time you're done. Because I love that kind of work. It just wasn't a safe environment for me to be in. So, after the way it worked in my area, it was 8 through 12 at that particular school. And the first couple of years, they give you the options to take these different classes, but they're only for a little bit of time, and you're in and out, and it's just to see if you like it or not, or what's good or not, and whether or not you pass is totally irrelevant to the progression of your grades. You had to pass certain core subjects like math and English, but the extra stuff, if you didn't pass that, it didn't really matter very much. You weren't going to fail your grade. You might fail your grade in carpentry, but you're still going to go on to 9 and 10 and, complete your high school education, which I did. Hold on a second here. Anyway, the reason all this is important to me is because now I have a better understanding of where I need to focus my attention and why. Because I've been asking myself that question for a very long time in life, because I could just never figure out what I was going to be good at or what I liked. So it's hard to excel in any one area. Like, I can do any menial task pretty much. But, who wants to be a grocery store clerk for the rest of their lives? I don't. It's a fine job, but I just don't want to do that for a career, really. I'm just doing it for the moment to keep a roof over my head. But you can't stay in that mode forever, because there are people there who I know there, who I've seen at that store for the last 10 years, and they're still at that store. That's great for if they're happy with where they're at. I haven't asked them, but that could be me in 10 years. I could still be working at that store. part-time for just a little over minimum wage. And I do have greater ambitions for myself than that in life. Just because none of them have worked out doesn't mean I don't have my eyes set on bigger sights. Anyway, this is getting a little bit long, and I don't like long videos, so I'm going to stop this one and I'll start another one shortly. So, Darci's Corner out.